Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Big Chief channel. Joining you today is myself, your host, Aaron Lee, as well as an interesting and familiar face, none other than John Tan. Welcome in, John. How's it going?
Hi, thank you, Aaron. Interesting character.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we are into the final episode. Glad not because it's the final last, but because this is the 13th episode of a promise we made 13 weeks ago that you can, without a consultant, for those who do not want to come up with the money to engage a
hmm
consultant. Within
hmm
13 episodes, we promise you, and today is the final episode, how to craft your own brand strategy.
Very nice.
There are three segments that we have covered so far: brand identity segment, brand management segment, brand communication segment. So these three segments, I repeat: brand identity, brand management, brand communication, would help us craft a brand strategy. Today's
hmm
episode, we shall focus on emotive storytelling, not just
Wow.
storytelling. Yeah. Emotive storytelling. Yeah. You like to get the
Ooh,
ball
can make
rolling?
people
Yeah.
cry one lah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can, and we should, because there are two types of tears: tears
hmm
of joy, tears of sadness. Huh? So you can tell a story that is so emotive. The person cried tears of joy. Wow, I
Mm.
wish I knew this brand earlier.
Mm. Well,
And of
before,
course,
without further ado,
yeah.
actually, wanted to really thank the audience for coming in, those who are in the chat, especially Patricia, as well as Andrew Richards and Anthony Walk. Thanks for coming in. Sorry to cut you off, but maybe we should jump right into it for the sake of time.
Hmm, yeah. The story should be emotional and
hmm
not the normal type of story. Let me qualify why it needs to be emotional. By the way, it's not my philosophy that the story should be emotional. All good progressive bands around the world know that you got to tell a story with some important elements. Afterwards, we'll share about it under
hmm
the second portion. First portion is a story idea. Second portion, we need a good story. And then, of course, a good story is not good enough. You need a great storyteller. Let's look at the definition of an emotive story. Now, if we look at the stories that are coming at us, and I like to draw our attention to the fact that the word story is very much misunderstood, very much
Mm.
misunderstood. But this misunderstanding will continue to proliferate and continue to be there because many people use the word story with a different meaning. Yeah, with a different meaning.
Right.
For brands, we got to know the exact meaning of what is a story. The very different meanings of story out there is example. You look at newspaper reports, whether online or physical. These are today's stories. Page one, page two, page three. Those are not stories because the those days was popular. Today is still there, but because of people busyness of time, the physical newspaper, there is the news report section. There is the feature story. Now that is correct. Feature story talks about life, talks about how people excel in something and so forth. But
hmm
otherwise, the newspaper all the world use the word story wrongly. Those are
hmm
actually reports, and
hmm
brands unknowingly actually do reports or do what we call very typical
Articles.
articles, very typical narration, very typical. This is my brand. What it can do for you. Those days are over. Those days about features, benefits are over. Today is, and today I mean even 20 years ago, 30 years ago, progressive brand will actually build a rapport with the audience to tell a story. Tell a story. Yes, we've proven over the years for 2,000 years now. If you just tell people what is good for you, very highly likelihood you won't touch their heart, and therefore very high likelihood they won't remember it. But you come out with
Mhm.
a story. You come out with a story. A famous spiritual figure always tell a good principle within a parable. That was 2,000 years ago, and today that method still works. So that is an emotive story versus the typical report, or as you use the word, article. We got to get this right as a brand.
That's right. But it seems like every other company is just focusing on articles because that is what gets them, the what's it called, like SEO as well as traffic, the short term kind of attention seeking way
Yeah,
to get people to look at your brand. So
yeah.
I think that's where most of the misunderstanding is it?
Why we need to tell story? Number one, why need to tell very good emotive story? If we backtrack prior to the digital realm coming into reality, and just broadly, 95 Malaysia, 1995, we got exposed to internet, but nothing much was happening. You have a website, then you're doing okay, because the
Mhm.
physical world was still manifesting most of the advertising budget.
Mhm.
Southeast Asia was very slow. Europe, US, very far ahead. Early 2000, a lot went into digital. Let's talk
Mhm.
Malaysia, this region, ASEAN. It's only the last 10 years brands actually go to digital marketing realm. And today, like it or not, the digital realm is the main realm. We live in
Yeah.
the digital world. Those around, we know that. We live in the
Yeah.
digital world now. It is the opposite. Because of that, so many things are bombarding us. Yeah, and those days we used the term 30 years ago, we used the term plethora. Today is multiple plethora. So people don't read advertising. Yeah, when we know
Yeah.
that. People don't read advertising. People want to have something that touch them. So what touch them and what sort of attracts their brain is story.
So how
Story
do you
with
get started with that?
story with emotion. All
Mm.
right. So let's start. Let's go to the first partner. Where do you get the story idea? We need an idea first. Then after, so I give some pointers. There are for my course. I do storytelling as one of my corporate training. I have 10 elements. I will share for constraint of time, maybe three, four, or five, depending how it goes. Key elements must be there. And then the third part is, what is a great storyteller? Yeah. Now let's look at the story idea. There are many sources of story idea. Folklore and folk tale.
Yeah.
Could be from any culture. There's a semblance of an idea. We can go source the very famous speeches that have been made for the 2-3 thousand years the world has existed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we we can delve into personal life and get an idea of it, and then tailor to the brand or product or service that you want to project. We can, if we are a brand in existing, say for even 1, 2, 3 years, no need to be 20, 30 years, there will be case study how a
Mm-hmm.
client of yours benefited from the brand somehow. So
That's
we
right.
can use the same idea, for your client, and sort of retailer made it. And so out of this four, of course, the fifth one is you create your own idea. Yeah? Create your own idea. Well, why make life so difficult when you have the first four sources?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we in creative agency, of course, we also try to create our own idea, but you can tap in those sources. And there's one more source: cinema ideas, movie ideas. Famous storybook idea. We could use it, and we use the term borrowed idea because we borrow the idea. So four plus the movie realm, the famous book realm, that's five plus your own creative. Six sources, lots and lots of ideas. So it's important to know that these sources are available to us. Instead, I hear of people struggling. Where's the next idea? Where's the next idea?
Ask them to drink more coffee lah.
Drink more coffee, but you got to know where your sources first is, Aaron, right? Because otherwise you
Can
drink more coffee after 48 cups, you still don't get the idea, right? But if you explore, source one, source two, source three, source four, source five, create your own.
True.
Lots of ideas around. Yeah. Shall we then look at now the key elements of a good story?
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah. Key elements of a good story. I mean, many people not aware of. I hope the copywriters in Malaysia are aware of, huh? Otherwise, then we are not giving the clients the best deal possible. There are a number of elements which are necessary because research has been done. As I said, the six or seven are not my philosophy. I added three based on my experience in mainstream advertising for more than 2 decades. These are research, huh? Research. I'll go through a big picture and then afterwards we go through into one, seeing how time allows us.
Sure,
There,
sure.
there is a need for trust in the storyteller. Storyteller meaning the whoever is telling the story. If we put it online, digital realm or physical world, then the brand is the storyteller. If we presenting it as a person, then the person is a storyteller. And trust is important. Yeah, trust is
Hmm.
important. Of course, when we are a brand that has been in existence for quite a while, with reasonably good reputation, not someone with notoriety. Notoriety means a bad reputation. I don't trust them. They just make promise only. Then there is a no situation. Trust is important. It is good to relate to the the three modes of presentation that Aristotle, what a brilliant, intelligent person he was. 2,000 years ago, he came up with these three modes of presentation:
Hmm.
ethos, pathos, logos. Ethos,
Mm.
pathos, logos. Ethos is trust and credibility of the storyteller. Pathos is whatever we promise, you got to justify. That's the rational
Right.
part. Yeah. And most people just stop at that. The third part is the most important. They all three are important, but the third part most important. The third part is the pathos. Yeah, pathos,
Emotion.
meaning emotion. ELP. Some people like to call it EPL, English Premier League, but that's not correct because it should be ELP. Yeah, credibility or trust, rational, support with evidence, and then the emotion. So even 2,000 years ago, people who knew these three modes of presentation, they could tell very good story. So today, by all means, we should follow these three modes of presentation. What are the necessary elements for a good story? That's trust is number one. Make sure we build that trust, and continually promote our brand. If it's a person telling a story, today we have LinkedIn and so forth and so forth. Make sure your bio data or your credibility is there.
Yeah.
Prior to presenting a story, make sure the MC introduce you with the right credentials, the truth, of course. And as you tell the story, semblance of your reputation comes up. People like that because when they sense the credibility of the storyteller, either the brand or the person, they get attracted. The second key element is you got to invite invite the audience into the story. Most people detach themselves, this is a brand, this is what we do, or they can tell a very interesting story, but they do not have the trick to lure, L-U-R-E, lure the audience, the reader, into the story. Yeah,
That's what I call finesse. Haha.
that's finesse. The term is how to immerse the audience
Right.
to your story. That means you got to have the ability, the finesse to invite the audience to be part of the story. Yeah. And the third very important element is simplicity. Now, this one we have to take it with a balance, because creativity is important. We don't want to tell us the typical straightforward story all the time. We add
Mm-hmm.
some sugar and spice to it, just like Captain Mao type of story, a bit
Mm-hmm.
exaggerated here and there, so that it's not the typically normal. But beware, if it's too creative, we will lose the audience. So that's why the third key element is simplicity. Creativity yet simple. I mean, we in
Yeah.
advertising for so long, and anyone in advertising long enough, we know that simplicity is the key to success. How
Mm.
to get a creative idea that is simple to be understood. The
Yeah.
fourth key element is familiarity. I could tell a very good story that say the brand that I let's say a brand of clothes that could suit us very well to climb up mountains and all that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about middle class, of course. We're not talking about, with due respect, the B40. They just put on any pants or T-shirt they like. We talk about middle class. They dress up. Yeah, they dress up. I don't like to mention the other brands because they're not paying us a sponsorship. Brands all over the world, they are in Malaysia as well. To climb mountains for outdoor adventure life, relate it to daily life so that the audience, when they read, yes, I can do this, or I have done this. If I haven't done this, I want to do this. There is
Mm.
a mountain nearby which I've been wanting. So familiarity is important. The story must have a familiarity. Yeah? The fifth key element is relatability. You know, now these two are interlinked. Familiar, that means you're not telling me a very creative story like won't happen to me. And so familiarity is important. But relatable, can I relate to it on a daily basis?
Mm.
You know, does it happen every day? So we got to be creative in our story idea, telling a story, and yet people can relate it to way of life. It may look simple, it's not simple, because it's like uh, it, it's like what we say, a paradox.
Right. Right. Right.
Creative, appealing, yet happens every day. Because if we don't
Yeah.
do it well, then it's every day that brand
Correct.
always tell every day story not appealing. Don't waste your time. I introduce one brand, they tell very good story, and yet wow, very meaningful to our life. I would go on that basis of how we should go about with the emotive story. Then the sixth element is agency. But agency has a strange meaning here. Agency means we guide the audience what they can do with your brand of product. Like just now I talked about outdoor adventure gear. It could be finance, you guide them, whatever, whether physical use or a service. Give them the way how to do it, how to use it, yeah. But ensure that they take action themselves.
Right.
Yeah, ensure that they take action themselves. It's just like, for analogy, parents, pamper their kid. This is how to do it. This is how, this whatever, and that's it. No, no. You guide the person how to do it. Then you encourage the person, go do yourself. That's the meaning
Mm-hmm.
of agency. So these are all seven key elements. There are three more. I think we did with seven. Quite a lot of ingredients to cook this recipe. But then we are talking about we should engage proper agency, proper copywriter. Lah. Of course, sometimes
Yeah,
brand in-house, there are lots of online digital, you can be a copywriter, you can be a storyteller. The good news is if you pay enough attention, have certain skill, you can. But the reality news is not anyone can be a copywriter or storyteller. So engage a good agency for that, yeah? Who knows all these things.
that's
So
right.
you
That's right.
noted the seven elements. You like to delve slightly deeper into it.
Yeah, but we
Trust.
have a message from the chat from Andrew
Yep.
Richards. He said maybe the audience can send their story and we can discuss it on our channel. I think that's not a bad idea. If, let's say, anyone in the audience would like to share their brand story with us, and maybe
Yeah. Why not?
Jonathan can have a look, and then maybe we can advise a little bit on how we can go
Yeah.
about it. That'll be
Can
pretty fun.
evaluate on the spot. Huh? Yeah. Whether
That's
this
right.
is
That's right.
this is a winner or much more work needs to be done. Yeah. Very good.
True.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we could move on to the third part. No?
Can?
Yeah. Just to recap, the major seven key elements of a good story: trust in the brand and storyteller to tell authentic stories is important.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to invite the audience into the story,
Mm-hmm.
immerse the audience, in other words. Three, be creative, but at the same time, have simple ideas. Four,
Mm-hmm.
while you're creative and tell great stories, you must have the audience to feel, oh, this is familiar to me. I can do it. I really want it. And then
Relatable and familiarity.
yeah, familiarity, and then five, I can relate to it on a daily basis. And so every time you come out with the next story, I want to read because I know you will tell me things that are beautifully crafted, emotive story, and it's I can feel familiar, and I can relate to it every day. And the six, you guide me how to go about it, and then you have a way of making me do it myself. Yeah? It's a way of making it do yourself. I mean, as Confucius famously say, if I just tell you, it's not good enough. If I get you to do it, then you learn for life. Along that basis. And then, of course, the seven. Just now I overlooked seven. I gave six only, sorry.
Oops.
Oops. Seven is drama. Drama. By the way, this method is based on movie storytelling and good storybook storytelling. So number seven is drama. You got to build in drama, intrigue, tension, excitement,
Mm.
entertainment, emotional dynamics. These are the stories that people like to read because, as I said just now, there are multiple plethora of things attacking us every day.
Mm-hmm.
If you were in a room with people, or in a coffee shop with people, or in the LRT with people, or in the lift with people, how people change channel. How people change channel on their smartphone. That means they're not reading what you want them to read. They go to another one, another one. So how to stop them to read? Attract them flat down. So this seven
Mm.
key elements got to be there, right?
I see.
So let's go to the need for. Allow me to backtrack. You need a good story idea, many sources. You need a good story, seven elements there, and then you need a great storyteller. Yeah, not just a storyteller. Three key areas to look into. The acronym is PET, PET. You got to be
Mm-hmm.
persuasive. Persuasive. If as a person, you got to be persuasive. As a brand, because there are so many forms of story, so many formats of story. If you write,
Right.
there is one format. Yeah? If you do a video, there's another format, isn't it? You do a short video like TikTok, that's another form. You do it on a billboard. On a billboard is also a story, although a lot of people miss the point.
That's right.
So, knowing the story format, the three checkpoints is number one, you got to be persuasive. Number two, you got to be have empathy. EMPATHY. Yeah? Empathy
Mm.
would mean you can feel for your audience. Feel for your audience. And after I go slightly with some key elements of these three, and then the third is of course trust, which we have covered just now. Trust. Because as a presenter, you got to really radiate the trust. Now, how to be persuasive? How to be persuasive? It always starts with having an intimate knowledge of your target audience. Intimate
Oh,
knowledge of your target audience. Know your target audience very, very intimately, deeply. You can't go wrong in looking into the psychographics, what they need, what they desire, and in the market research term, what insights do your consumers feel, right? But we should go further than that. The pain point. The pain point. Pain has two broad key meanings. I believe last week we touched base with that slightly. Today is good to talk about it again.
right.
Pain, quite a lot, I'm glad, quite a lot of brands, meaning their copywriters and creative team, know that if you use my brand, you can overcome the pain of what? Let's say you sell detergent. If you use my brand, your color clothes become more colorful, your white become
Hmm.
whiter, but not good enough. That is generic. Any brand can do that. Decent brand, your competitor can do that. You must do what your competitors cannot do, or you can do better than what your competitors cannot do. Then you must look into the other key meaning of pain point, which is if you're selling brand detergent, if you use the other four brands, great, but you will regret not using my brand. If you're selling a
Yeah.
finance software, same thing. The other four you use, you will regret. Yeah? Use my
Right.
brand, won't regret. My brand costs slightly more, Aaron.
Right.
So that's why people prefer to buy the cheaper brand, right? But you buy my brands cost slightly more. I give you 3 months warranty, 6 months warranty. When your finance software collapse a problem, I rectify. But that is the pain point we should look at. And then we come up with a story how to address and avoid this pain point.
That's
That
right. That's right.
yeah, that is how to be persuasive. Yeah, it's not about persuasive. People tend to say write beautiful words. That's the second part.
I
First
think
part is
our friend Andrew Richards
yeah,
mentions USP, but I think pain point is a little bit different from USP. Am I
deeper
right?
than USP. USP is extension of the first pain. First pain is like detergent. You use this detergent, you get brighter colors. I mean, colors become more colorful. White becomes
Right.
whiter. That's the point. You have something that is allowing you to do that. So USP would be different from your competitors. So USP still belongs to the first pain. The
Yeah,
second
it's a
pain.
different kind of perspective when thinking about pain
Yeah.
point.
Mm. So second one is like you more or less go into more. I think the analogy is additional added value.
Mm,
Additional added value, and there is something that a lot of brands miss out. Additional added.
that's right.
Mm.
I think is widely also used in the sales process as well. So like a lot of times salespeople they'll ask you like, oh, how long have you been having this problem? And from that they'll ask, uh, what has that affected? You know, how bad is the problem? And find out what your pain is, right? Then they
Mm.
try to use that as a, they turn it around and say that this is the solution to solve your pain. We have XYZ solution for you. You know, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good time to it's a good time to relate to seven habits. Huh? One of the
Sure.
seven defective habits is seek first to understand before you seek to be understood. Like you just now gave that little story. What is the pain you're feeling? What blah 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 blah. You find out find out the
That's right.
audience. What is the pain point you're feeling? Then we address it. Huh? So that's a very good analogy. I see in the comment one is bad buffering, so not related to our talk.
Uh,
Andrew Richard is a big fan of the biodegradable word. Now, biodegradable
right.
comes still under the first pane. How you can able to do
Correct.
it part of USP. Yeah. Now,
So I
the
think,
second one is
yeah,
empathy. Let's deal with empathy. Yeah?
empathy.
And we can wrap with trust. Empathy is critically important in storytelling, not only in
Mm-hmm.
storytelling, in rapport building. And I'll be very honest, to practice pure empathy, because I encourage people to have empathy, so I must walk the talk. It's very difficult, which is why if we have it, it's a real persuasive, powerful tool to tell story. Empathy is defined as generally, not directly from the dictionary. I
Right.
feel the way you feel. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Feel
Mm-hmm.
the way you feel. You know. For instance, we walk along the road and we observe there's an accident. You know, and a
Yep.
motorcyclist get bang and fly in the air and pop. I don't like to
Ooh.
I don't want to describe the detail. Quite gory. And the person either badly injured or move on with life. Right?
Right.
We
Right.
feel
Right.
pain, right? But no one
That's
will
right.
feel the pain more than the person as well as the immediate next of kin. You know where I'm coming from,
Yep.
isn't it? But having
You
said
can't
that,
really
we
be in their
must,
shoes. Sorry.
yeah, having said that, we must develop empathy as a skill for life.
Mm.
As a skill for life. So one good way to develop empathy for life, there are many ways. One good way is do counseling. Do counseling for people
Mm.
with problems. Feel the way they feel. I've done that before. I've done that before. But do you know that in counseling, after 1 week, 3 days to 7 days, the counselors get counseling
Oh, counselors
because
will get counseling.
there's so much input or negativity, real problems, whatever. You get bogged down, So
Ah.
I offered my service to Befrienders, one of the biggest counseling services in the world.
Right.
They're
Yes.
non-religious, open to all.
The
We need
suicide
counseling,
hotline, right?
uh, but it's a very fantastic way to learn and develop and practice empathy. Without that real empathy, because I'm a writer, I know, without that real empathy, our storytelling is superficial,
Mm.
you know. But with that empathy, of course, it is a given on any product or service that I write for the client. I must use the product and the service. Then I can write with authority because I've used it, face it, and then with empathy from the client. That type of story is what we call an emotive story. Yeah.
I see. I see. Very
And
interesting.
finally, trust, as we covered just now, is one of the major seven key elements of good story. That one is trust in the story. This one is trust in the person. So this trust is very important for if we are, say, public speakers, either speaking for ourselves to inspire people, or we are speaking on behalf of a brand, product or service. And then the speaker got to be really a genuine speaker that people can trust. Tell a story that the person has lived through, experience. not
Right.
just not just I'm a very good public speaker. I can tell any story because I've been learning public speaking. People can tell whether is coming from your from the deepest heart of hearts, or you're
That's right.
just a brilliant speaker. you know.
Right, right,
So
right.
that's
That's
PAT,
true.
PET acronym.
Very nice. Thank you so much, John, for sharing. But unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show, and that would wrap up the 13 episodes series from John. That is quite interesting. Thanks to the audience for sticking around. Really appreciate your time. But it is time for us to say goodbye and to tell you to like, share, and subscribe as well as we say how and good night to everyone out there. So
Wow.
catch you guys in the next episode. We are live every weekday at 8:30 p.m. GMT plus 8. Catch you guys next time. Bye bye.
Bye.